Hi, I'm Melanie Barr. Welcome to the She Built It Experience with Melanie. You're here because you want to experience the life and business that you crave. Join me as I talk to women who have successfully built it, a career and business that they love. We dive into the topic of how they built it and talk about everything from having the courage to make career leaps to the details of how to lead effectively, create successful teams, implement strategies for growth, and infuse tech innovation. Magic happens when we focus on the part of ourselves and our business that brings us joy. So let's dive in. Leslie Kuster is a multiple seven-figure e-commerce brand owner whose business Back from Bali offers women bohemian chic clothing ethically made in Bali. The success of Back from Bali affords Leslie the life of her dreams, and she is passionate about igniting and inspiring other women entrepreneurs to rise while creating financial and personal freedom. Thank you so much for joining us today, Leslie.
I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to talk about how you build something. I do know that for myself, the most important thing was getting honest about what I wanted. And I think that that is how you build something.
How do you think you were not honest with yourself initially? Because it seems like you made a shift somewhere.
I made a huge shift. So I've been an entrepreneur for a really long time. And I started being an entrepreneur simply because I didn't want to get a job. I was a mediocre entrepreneur for a really long time, like 17 years. And when I say mediocre, I mean only financially. My own life was beautiful and I had freedom and I could do what I wanted, but I was not creating wealth and money that I felt I knew I can really be doing. Mm-hmm. And that was the part about getting more honest. I had this feeling of being a failure and not living up to what I knew I could be doing. And I knew I could be doing so much better than I was doing. There was just this feeling I was getting more and more uncomfortable. But this feeling in me, I'm not sure, it just got stronger and stronger. And there was really a pivotal moment. I mean, I could pinpoint it. I was sitting in the old apartment we used to own in a little apartment in my little office. And I just felt like there is just no way I am waking up on my next birthday in the same situation I'm in right now. There's no way that I was not going to be making more money. There was no way that I was not going to elevate myself more. There was just no way. And that was the moment. And I began to be honest with what I wanted. And what I wanted was more money and more wealth and more personal success. I wanted more empowerment. I wanted more control. I wanted more independence. I wanted not to expect my husband to buy the dream apartment. And that's what happened. I just got honest with what I wanted.
Do you think you just weren't ready at the time? Maybe it took you to this pivotal moment to just be ready enough to say, I'm going to get serious and do this?
I guess so. Because why did it happen then? It happened then. And why didn't it happen 10 years earlier or 1 year earlier? I don't know. But that isn't life like that sometimes, that you get inklings of things, but then you have to get to a point where you're really frustrated or really unhappy, right? Or really had enough in order to make a change. So maybe I got to that point.
You believe in unapologetically claiming a love of money. Tell us about that, and how has that mindset helped you in building your business?
I realized that a big reason of why I was not as financially successful as I am now, and what happened once I made that decision, is because I had so many false mindset beliefs around money and around my commitment to my, quote, freedom. I've always said freedom is my number one value, and it still is my number one value, but I saw it in conflict with success. So I'm a spiritual person. So therefore, money's not that important to me. Or I want to have the time to go to my retreat in the summer, or I want to go to my yoga classes. And if I become too successful, I won't have the time to do those things. So it was sort of like, I am this, and success and money is going to stop me from doing this that I really want to be doing. And this is all false beliefs that I think many women have, that they believe that by being successful or going after their dreams or building their business or having a financial goal, that it is going to take away their free time, take away their connection to their spirituality, or take away their connection to being feminine and sensual, or whatever that means. And now that I'm on the other side of it, okay, because I did build it, I have it all. And this is what I didn't know then. I have the money and the spirituality. I have the success and I have the free time. And I couldn't have it without the money. And I couldn't have it unless I became honest that having the money was part of it. And I've now become very passionate about supporting women entrepreneurs. I've written a book about it called Money and Freedom. And I am passionate about it because without ability to have access to finances, to the economy, we could do nothing. It is so essential that women take control over their money, because without it, we can't do anything.
You're so right. Do you think you were taking in information through that time? Because there are moments where I marinate on an idea. I'm not quite ready to do it, to make the leap, whether it's big or small. Do you think over that time you were thinking about money and thinking about what you wanted to do as far as a focus to get more of it, and then just at that one point you were ready to make that leap?
It was more, I felt that I was underserving myself. I felt like I could be doing better than I was doing. I was aware that I had a lot of talents that I was not using. And it just, I don't know, it was just this moment. And also another thing happened in that moment, which I want to mention, because I think this will help. I, at that time, had actually two businesses. I had the business I have now, which is a women's clothing business called Back from Bali. And I manufacture clothing in Bali, Indonesia, bring it into the United States, and I sell it online, mostly on Amazon and my website. And I had another business called Girl Power, because I also have my MSW, my master's in clinical social work. And I ran empowerment groups for young girls who were 7 to 13 years old. So I had two businesses. And what I realized in that moment, sitting in that chair in our old apartment, was that was so much the reason why I was not successful, is because I was not focused. And when you have too many things going on, or too many businesses, and women sometimes think they're so great because they can multitask. Well, truthfully, we're not, because it just leads to mediocrity. And I realized sitting in that chair that if I wanted to elevate myself, I needed to focus on just one of the businesses. And that was another huge thing that I shifted and decided to do. And I did. I let go of one of them, and I decided to go all in on one and to focus, to know I can do it, to try to do it, even if I couldn't do it, at least to be honest with myself that I wanted this, and I wanted to make more money, and I wanted to be more independent, and to go for it. And I did.
I think a lot of women, particularly female entrepreneurs, can relate to what you just said, because sitting in the nursery, I created two businesses also. I created a children's clothing box business, and then I launched She Built It at the same time. And I thought, these are going to feed my two passions. And then I had twin babies that I was responsible for keeping alive. And I thought, I cannot do all of this. I thought, I have to let go of one. And I actually never launched. Even though I built the whole business, the back end, everything, I was ready to launch. And I thought, I'm not going to be present at all for anything in my life if I launch these two businesses. So I think a lot of our listeners can relate, but you're so right. If you don't focus, I have a background in business development, and I just wrote a blog post on this. If you don't focus on business development and kind of go back to the basics and say, what clients do I want? How do I get them? Where are they living? And even just starting with one, just get one, because that momentum will build on itself. And I think it's the same to your point with money and finances. Once it starts to grow, I'm sure for you, that became pretty addicting, in addition to doing what you're passionate about.
Well, because money enables you to do what you're passionate about. Money is neutral and it's not good or it's not bad. It just is, basically. And it's here for us to use. It's like, there's abundance in the world. There's the abundance of sunshine and water, and there's an abundance of difficult situations, and there's an abundance of money, and it's all available to us. And I just think for us women, we have so many wrong beliefs about saying we're a money person, or that we want money, or that we want more money to do whatever. I rather say so you could buy your dream house, so you could leave your horrible relationship. Let's stop with the how we're supposed to use money. Let's get rid of this. This is why we are not growing enough. And I want to just throw in a statistic for women entrepreneurs, that there are only 10% of women entrepreneurs that do more than $100,000 a year in revenue. That means that 90% of women entrepreneurs do less than $100,000 a year in revenue. And we need to change this.
You're so right. It can be a limiting belief. When you think there is abundance when it comes to money, that changes your thinking. Instead of thinking that money is scarce.
Yeah.
What gave you the courage to launch and build Back from Bali? And can you tell us about that? And what led you to the business?
What led me to the business is I didn't want to get a job. In my early 30s, I had something happen where my apartment was robbed, and I all of a sudden got insurance money. And so I decided to do something I always wanted to do, which was to travel. And I wanted to travel to Indonesia. I always saw those islands on the map, and I thought, I want to go there. And so I went to Indonesia, and I loved it. And I just had the best time. It's such a freeing and a beautiful country, beautiful people, amazing culture. But I had to go back. I was living in New York City at the time. I had been doing PR, public relations in corporate, and I needed to go back to New York and get a job. And I so didn't want to get a job. And there was not one job I wanted. And I had a light bulb moment, literally. And I just thought, wow, I remember seeing all this beautiful clothing in Bali, in particular children's clothing, colorful and vibrant and handcrafted, because it was batik, which is the craft they use in Bali to make fabric. And I just had this thought, I wonder what would happen if I went back to Bali and I bought clothing and I brought it back to the US. And I took out a calculator, tick, how much it would cost me to fly there. And I knew there was all these street fairs in New York City. And I thought, okay, I bet I can sell at one of these street fairs, and tick. And I just felt like there's just no way I could lose money unless everything was stolen or something on the way back. And I did it. I literally did it. Within a week, I jumped on a plane. I went back to Indonesia, to Bali. I hit the streets. I bought clothing. I brought it back to New York City. And that is how I launched a business. And that was, quite a long time ago, where I was selling at street fairs. And it's gone through many different businesses and even product lines. So I've had this business for a long time. I did markets. I then wholesaled, but it wasn't really until getting online. And it wasn't until about 8 years ago when I really had that pivotal moment that I was talking about, that I decided to change everything. And I changed the product line at that time. I changed my mindset. I changed my actions. And I changed my business. And at that time, I had just gotten on Amazon maybe within a year or two. This is maybe 2008, 9, 10, something like that, early Amazon. And I was doing about 50,000 a year in sales on Amazon, which I was really excited about and thought was pretty damn good. But then I had that moment where I experienced that I told you about. And from then, my business just grew and grew and grew. And I happily can say I'm now at the multiple 7 figures in my business.
Good for you.
And that's why I decided to also write a book, is because I started to think, how do you do this? Which is why your podcast is so great. How do you build it? And I didn't have a business degree. I didn't go to school for it. I'm not a fashion designer. I'm not even by the way, I sell women's clothing. I don't even know how to sew. All right. So all of these ideas you have to go to fashion school. You have to go to business school. You have
the limitations.
The limitations. So wanting it is really the first thing, and knowing what it is that you want. So I started to think about, how does one do this really? And that is how I came up with my book. My book is called Money and Freedom: 7 Keys to 7 Figures for Women Entrepreneurs. And I go through the steps, the how steps, which are really, so many of them is mindset and what comes from the inside, as well as action.
And you can completely tell by talking to you that you have done that work, because the determination it takes to build what you have built, you found your passion and you stayed determined to make it into what it is today. You spoke about your pivots. You know, we have to accept that, okay, maybe the business isn't going to look as it grows exactly as we think it's going to look or want it to look, but that's part of growth and being okay with those pivots and changes along the way.
It's such a good point. And I want to add to that, because I think a lot of women entrepreneurs who maybe see other women entrepreneurs as successful want to remind everyone that it's definitely not a straight path, and it's not an easy path. And part of the success that I've had, part of it has simply been perseverance. It has simply been not quitting and staying. And I can't tell you how many setbacks I've had and failures I've had and problems I've had in my business. But it's the persevering that over time, and the baby steps and all of that stuff, that brings you to the right direction. And sometimes it's a whole different direction, but it's some direction.
Yeah. And it's finding that joy too. Joy is in the journey, to all of your points. Like, we have this idea of where the destination should be, right? But it's finding joy along the way in those moments. And if you're doing something you're passionate about, or if you're making money, because like you said, that affords you to do those things, it just becomes kind of more and more addicting to do what brings you joy.
So true. I think it's also important to know that sometimes it's just sucky too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the sucky parts also have its value, because the sucky parts also can help you change directions or hire an assistant or do something different. It's like 50-50. You have the joy, and you also sometimes don't.
Right. Yes. A lot of times don't. I think if you're doing what brings you joy, it makes those difficult days a little easier, because we've all been in those, like you mentioned, not wanting to go get a job. We've all been in those jobs that we really didn't want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
What is one thing that female business leaders can do right now to increase their net?
Oh, that's a great question. And there's one answer, which is know thy numbers. So we need to get real intimate with the inside of us, with our spirituality, with who we are, with what we want, and with our numbers. Your numbers speak, okay? Your business speaks. And the only way to know what it's saying is to know those numbers. And I highly recommend a bookkeeping system such as Xero. I use something called Xero, Xero. And so it's online. So I can, every day I can go and I could look how my business is, like how my revenue is, my expenses, what the net profit is of that particular month. So it's really getting intimate with those numbers and knowing the numbers. And that is so incredibly important. And one mistake I made such a long time ago when I was in the early stages of my business, and I was working with my coach, my consultant, who, by the way, I still work with to this day, the same one. She said to me, "Do I pay myself?" So I said, "Well, sure. Of course I pay myself, kind of." I said, I pay for like plane tickets when it comes, and I pay for vacations. And she said, "No, do you pay yourself?" And I said, "Well, am I supposed to?" And this is also so typical that women don't pay themselves. And another tip I would like to give everybody is a fantastic system and book, which I read, called Profit First. It's written by Mike Michalowicz, and it's a system of paying yourself, basically, and making sure that you get paid first before anybody else. So those are great tips for increasing your net, is really know your numbers and to make sure you are paying yourself, no matter what it is. Even if your income is $500 a month, you still pay yourself a certain percentage of that.
That's so smart, because it's a mindset. Once you start paying yourself, you want that to grow, right? And you can feel good about your accomplishments and what you're doing.
So true. Exactly. Because if you're working all the time, which is what a lot of women do and entrepreneurs do, work, and you're not making any money, you're not paying yourself anything, and you're just paying everybody else, that just is going to, just as you said, just destroy your mindset. You want to make, and this is a really good point, you want to make yourself feel rich at all times. You want to feel it. And even if you don't have it in the moment, you still want to experience feeling it. And that's where our mindset, our imagination, our visioning, our praying, our journaling comes in, because we can still feel really rich and abundant at any moment.
You say if you want to be successful in business, there are times you need to stop doing business. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. I have been very dedicated to my own spirituality and my own what I call empty time. And I have been going to a spiritual retreat for 30 years. In the last 2 years, because of obvious situation, have not. But up until then, have always done that. And I've always gone for about 6 weeks, at least, sometimes even 8 weeks. Because I believe that it is actually in the downtime, in the empty time, in the quiet time, that we connect with what it is we really, really, really want, and what we really, really, really yearn for. And without connecting with that, we're taking actions and making decisions based on what we think we should do or what we thought we wanted to do. And we're just on this treadmill all the time. I actually believe that part of my success has been because I've taken so much time to stop. Now, with our current situation and everyone is home more, we have to take this time in any way we can, early in the morning or late at night, or go for a walk by yourself, or journal, meditation. There's so many ways to do this, but getting in touch with one's emptiness, to connect to our higher self, the wisdom from inside of ourselves into our intuition, is the fuel. There is no satisfaction in this world without it. We cannot function without it. It's just as important as breathing and food, having that inner connection with something higher than ourselves.
You are so right. My mother taught kindergarten for 29 years, and I learned from her. She would take one day on the weekend and do nothing. No housework, no lesson plans for the week, no work. She would just let her mind just go. And I found that I do that now on the weekends. I try to put my phone away. I tell myself I'm not thinking about work. I'm not going to organize our life today. I'm just going to take that day. And I understand you're talking about taking it a step further, right? To really meditate and go deep into what you want. But also with homeschooling the twins and the last year, to your point, like you mentioned, going on walks by yourself. I found the kids just started school. The twins started second grade, but my son hasn't been in school since kindergarten. So he's been home, and I found myself the first 2 days they were gone thinking, oh, I have to do this quickly. I have to do this fast. And then I thought, no, I don't. I'm in the house by myself, because we've all become so used to, if we have family around us at all times, not being alone. And I'm finding now that I'm by myself that I am kind of sinking into those moments more. And I'm realizing what a lack. And I know I'm not alone. I know so many listeners are probably thinking they had the same experience, just how important, to your point, that alone time to really think and dive into ourselves is.
It's so important. Without having a connection to ourselves, a deeper connection to God, to spirit, to the divine, to our, whatever you want to call it, intuition, nature, whatever it is.
The universe.
We will continue to be unhappy because it's the only thing that will make us really happy. And so we have to carve out that time, that empty time. We have to. Otherwise, life is only partly lived, truthfully.
So true. Magic happens when we focus on the part of ourselves and our business that brings us joy. What is one tip that you can leave with us today about how you find and live your joy?
You have to work at it. And what you need to do is know what those things are that bring you joy. And from simple things like my grandmother had a beautiful tea set and saucer and cup. And, I use this to make really good green jasmine tea, and just drinking that beautiful tea with the scent of the jasmine out of my grandmother's cups. That brings me joy, brings me joy to go into nature and to hug a tree and to connect with a leaf and a flower, and everything brings me joy. Sitting with my husband in the morning and having coffee and talking and dream building with him brings me joy. Connecting with myself and having those empty moments brings me joy. So we need to do the things. And that's why I said we have to work at it. Because if we're waiting for joy to just arrive, it isn't going to. And we need kind of the discipline to bring joy into our lives.
So true. And it's so beautiful that you gift yourself those moments. Such good advice.
Yes, we have to give this to ourselves.
Leslie, it's been so much fun talking to you. Can you please tell our listeners how and where they can find you?
Oh, I would love that. So the best way to find me is on my website, which is lesliekuster.com. And do check out also, I have a great free video. And the video is called 3 Things to Do Before 9 a.m. to Reach 7 Figures. And it really teaches about the inner actions and the outer actions we need to take in order to have the successes that we want. So do check that out. And you could also find me on Instagram at Leslie Kuster Official, and would love to connect with any of your listeners.
If you are new to She Built It, we'd love for you to join us. We offer community memberships, masterminds, innovative virtual events, and meaningful connections to entrepreneurs and corporate leaders. Please also check out our She Built It shop. Curated products from women-owned businesses who put their heart and soul into their beautiful and innovative products. We offer She Built It business consulting and the She Built It blog. Thank you to everyone around the world who joined today. Thank you to my editor, Rich Straffolino. Please download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, together, let's let nothing stop us from experiencing the life that we crave.